Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us both virtually as well as in person at Integrate here in Sydney today. Also like to thank Microsoft for the opportunity to talk a little bit about how AudioCodes can assist companies in that migration from their legacy infrastructure to Microsoft Teams. My name is Eamon Kearns, and I'm the country manager for AudioCodes here in Australia, responsible for the business in the Australia-New Zealand region. Some people may not be familiar with AudioCodes. We are one of Microsoft's partners, sort of hidden away in the solution for many, many years. We are a voice over IP sort of infrastructure provider. We've been in voice for like 30 years experience working with Microsoft and voice. Well, not 30 years with Microsoft, but 20 years with Microsoft back from the early days. We are the #1 enterprise SBC vendor worldwide in market share. We're one of Microsoft's leading Teams voice partners. 65 of the Fortune 100 companies around the world use AudioCodes for their voice infrastructure. And we have equipment deployed and operating in over 120 countries. We're very much a UC and a CC provider, or CX, I guess, as it's become known today. Our specialty is around enabling voice for collaboration and customer experience, particularly in the recent years in the cloud environment. As I say, 20 plus years of working with Microsoft. I always look at this picture that we show here, and as you can tell from the accent, I'm not Australian. I'm from Ireland originally, and it reminds me of a couple of the valleys from near where I grew up. So at some point, I'm going to do some research and see if I can find those roads. But back in 2003, AudioCodes embarked on this journey with Microsoft with sort of the advent of Office communication servers. And we've gone through that through till most recently with the introduction of voice capabilities into the Dynamics 365 environment. So very much an AudioCodes enablement partner. Most of what we do today has been delivered as virtualized. So it started originally as boxes and boards. It's now become virtualized. It sits in the cloud. Almost everything that we make can be consumed from Azure. Recently, Microsoft updated their numbers on Teams users. And in terms of the Teams voice users, Microsoft reported that there are 17 million Teams PSTN phone users globally as of last month. Now we know as AudioCodes, as the SBC provider, of those 17 million users, 7 million of them are traversing AudioCodes SBCs. So basically, just a little bit short of half of the Teams voice traffic traverses an AudioCodes SBC. Of those 17 million Teams voice users, 1.7 million are managed by AudioCodes. So one of the things we're going to be talking to you today about is AudioCodes Live. And so 1.7 million of Microsoft's Teams voice users are actively managed on a 24/7 basis by AudioCodes. Some of these companies that you'll see on the slide, they're well-known brands, global well-known brands that are using AudioCodes for their Teams voice or for their contact center applications. So Microsoft themselves, as an example, using AudioCodes from Azure as their SBCs. DHL with a global rollout, originally of Skype for Business, but subsequently migrated over into Teams. So again, all based on AudioCodes. Managed, their network is designed, built, and managed by AudioCodes. And then you look at the service providers. So 8 of the top 10 service providers, so telecom service providers globally, are using AudioCodes for their Teams infrastructure. So people like Colt in the UK, AT&T in North America, NTT in Japan, BT in the UK, Orange in France, all using AudioCodes for their SBC infrastructure for enabling Teams voice. So AudioCodes, we're a complex organization. We service the service provider market, and we also service the enterprise market. Our role is really creating the pieces that Microsoft don't deliver into the Teams voice ecosystem. So we very much focus around direct routing for enterprise and Operator Connect for service providers. We are one of Microsoft's Operator Connect Accelerator partners, so we have the ability to assist a service provider to rapidly onboard as an Operator Connect partner for Microsoft. Here in Australia, we recently brought on one of the service providers in probably about 8 weeks from the signing of the contract with us to their logo appearing in the Microsoft portal as an Operator Connect provider for Australia. So it's something that we're very experienced and very quick to deliver upon. PBX integration is another complex thing. Like in migrating to Teams Voice, one of the challenges is the integration of my legacy equipment. Most people don't just move to Teams Voice overnight. It can be an extended migration period. So we work very much with supporting and enabling that. As I mentioned, we essentially have two offers. As a managed service provider, we have AudioCodes Live for Teams focused on the enterprise. And this is a per user per month commercial model where we will work with our reseller partners to design, build, and manage on an ongoing basis a complex Teams rollout for an enterprise. We also have a platform that we sell through service providers and managed service providers, MSPs, that we call AudioCodes Live Cloud. So AudioCodes Live Cloud is a multi-tenanted solution that an MSP or a service provider can use to deliver Teams voice to their users without actually having to know anything about telephony and SIP trunking and all of that type of stuff. It's carriage agnostic. So as a reseller or as an MSP, you can take SIP trunks from whatever carrier or whatever service provider you wish and terminate them onto the cloud platform. So again, all of these are available in the Australian market. The Live Cloud platform runs in Azure here in Australia with an instance or an SBC instance in the Sydney East Azure zone, as well as an SBC instance in the Sydney East, Australia East, as well as an SBC instance that runs in the data centers in Melbourne. But it's not just about connectivity. Like Teams is more of a platform. And so what AudioCodes also focuses on is creating the applications that reside on those platforms. So compliance recording is one of the critical applications that we have created over the past number of years. It's a product we call SmartTap 360. Why we call it SmartTap 360 is it records all interactions. We can do a voice-only implementation if you wish, but we can also record, for compliance reasons, chat within the system, screen sharing, video, with a complete recorded record of the interaction of the call that is legally admissible within court. So it's all digital watermark, time-stamped, all of that sort of stuff to make it sort of legally permissible. We focus also on enhancing the customer experience, the contact center, or the call steering. So as people migrate complex workloads into Teams, they start having a requirement for more sophisticated call handling. They might want to have conversational IVR embedded in the Teams environment. So AudioCodes has created an application we call Voca, which is essentially a contact center application using Microsoft's latest powered by model. So with the powered by model, the integration between the contact center and the and the Teams environment, that occurs at the Teams tenant level. It's not done at the SIP trunking or at the carriage network. The contact center application essentially resides within Teams. The benefit of this is it means that anybody in the organization can become a contact center agent when required. So you can very quickly move calls from your help desk environment over to your knowledge worker, and you can move them back. So everything resides within Teams. Meeting Insights is another product that AudioCodes has created, or another service that AudioCodes has created over the past few years. And this enables you to get intelligent recaps of meetings within Teams. So it will participate in the meeting as a bot and provide you with a summary and a recording of the meeting. When I say recording, it can be a transcript, it can be an audio recording, it will be a recording of the content. It's got keyword searching, and all of this uses Microsoft Cognitive Services embedded into a subscription model. So these 4 applications from AudioCodes are all delivered as subscription services, and they sit on top of Microsoft Teams as the platform. Microsoft had talked about 17 million users, phone users within Teams, but there are also somewhere in the region of 700 million Teams users. So there's 670 million, 680 million users who don't use voice, who don't use telephony. And they're using Teams for meeting rooms. They're using Teams for collaboration. So AudioCodes has a portfolio of devices that enable collaboration in the Teams environment also. So we, as an organization, we're focusing our R&D investments around Android as the platform. So Teams Room on Android, and down on our stand in Hall 4, stand C48, you'll be able to see our huddle room and our modular meeting room solutions for Microsoft Teams. So these particular products are the RXV81 and the RXV200. They're the latest products certified by Microsoft. They are Android 12 based, so it addresses all of the security concerns enterprises and larger organizations have about deploying Android within their network environment. Our phone systems, our phones, our desktop devices are all Microsoft native Teams devices. Again, Android 12 based, so it enables you to sort of address those enterprise security concerns about Android. Device Manager is really the glue that holds everything from AudioCodes together. So Device Manager is a cloud-based service that enables AudioCodes meeting room systems, as well as desktop phones, as well as users to be managed from a central platform, and it'll also provide you with voice quality analytics for your Teams calls. So Teams to Teams calls, peer to peer, federated to federated, or Teams to PSTN. You can get a single pane of glass view of everything that goes on in your voice network. So summing up from my side, AudioCodes, we're a Microsoft partner focused on enabling voice for Teams. We are one of the unique partners in that we create the technology as well as the services that tie everything together. Most of what we do today, where it can be, is delivered through Azure. So our applications reside in Azure, our SBCs reside in Azure, and they can be consumed on a per device per month basis, or they can be consumed on a per user per month basis. We have Microsoft MVPs on staff to assist in migration design, solution design, and a professional organization that can take you through from concept through to delivery and for ongoing operations. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Mitch, who will walk you through the next few slides and the next few minutes of our call.
Thanks very much, Eamon. So I'm going to be hosting a virtual panel, and we will be having an end customer, Natasha Oganovsky from South32, and then we will have Tim Smith from a partner perspective, because our model is always through a partner. So I would like to introduce Natasha. Natasha, would you be able to just explain to the audience a little bit about your background, your current role, and a little bit about the organisation that you work for, please?
Well, thank you, Mitchell, and hi, everyone. as Mitchell said, my name's Natasha Roganovsky. I am one of the technology program managers at South32. Just to give you a bit of a context around who South32 is, and just some numbers, just so you can get a good feel for, I guess, the reach of the programs of work in which I deliver. So South32's underlying revenues last year were $9 billion with an underlying EBIT of around 19%. We've got 9,000 people working across 10 different countries, delivering 10 different types of commodities. So these include aluminum, aluminium, copper, silver, lead, zinc, nickel, manganese, metallurgical coal, and bauxite. Look, I've been with South32 for the last 2 years. Previous to that, I spent most of my career in the oil and gas services sector, predominantly in commercial. I led for one of the, so for Clough, who was a West Australian-based global service provider. I was their head of strategy and merger acquisition for a period of time. I did a few years at the Water Corp, where I was doing a lot of digital metering and advanced data analytics, and I guess that's where kind of I fell into the world of technology. And then, so as I said, for the last 2 years, I've been responsible for managing a large and often geographically remote team to deliver 2 very large programs of work. So the one that's most relevant for today's conversation is our collaboration program. We started it 2 years ago when I started at South32. There was a video conferencing integration project, which we finished last year. There's a very large migration from ISDN to SIP project, which I am really pleased to say we only have 2 sites remaining. We've been at this for a while, so we've got 1 African site, and then we just need to get Rio de Janeiro over onto SIP. And then obviously the close follower to that is the migration from Skype for Business to Teams Voice. And look, we're scheduled to be getting out of some OBS data centres kind of November, December. So I mean, this project should, I guess, wrap up around kind of January 2024.
Thanks, Natasha. From a mining perspective, are there any sort of trends that you are sort of seeing in that sector?
Yeah, it's interesting when you work for a company like South32. I've never really worked for a company quite like it. I mean, they are acquiring and divesting businesses and mine sites. It almost feels like one a year since the demerger 7 years ago. I guess the reason that they're doing that is probably similar to a number of mining and minerals companies, and it's really around reshaping the portfolio for those commodities that are critical for this low carbon future. So again, just to throw some numbers, so at the time of the demerger, 45% of underlying revenue was in base metals, where based off our last financial results and announcement, 71% of that underlying revenue is now base metals. Again, like most businesses, we're really focused on addressing climate change, and we have set a target to reduce our operational greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2035. And we're doing that through really reshaping our portfolio, obviously decarbonising our operations, working with others, and really just trying to manage and address those kind of physical climate risks for each of our kind of operational sites.
Okay. With regards to moving to Microsoft Teams Voice, is there one, I guess, misconception that now that you're into the project that you can sort of reflect that you had, I guess, before starting the project?
Yeah, I guess previously it would have been this conception that it was an add-on, where in reality for South32, Microsoft Teams Voice is really just a natural component of our existing Microsoft ecosystem. I mean, the biggest misconception in delivering the project has been that all of our end users, they actually all thought they already had Teams, because of course they're all familiar with Teams because they use it for messaging and video conferencing, but the bit that they didn't have was obviously kind of that voice and the telephony piece. I mean, this is kind of the hidden bit behind the scenes. They had no idea. And for us as a business, as we've said, kind of with 9,000 people working from home, corporate offices, and often in very remote operational sites across those 10 countries. Microsoft Teams Voice was an obvious choice for us at South32.
Yep, great. Can you talk us through, please, the design, I guess specifically for the non-office users, the mining, the production, the operation plants, which, as you just sort of mentioned, can be remote, can have poor network connectivity, geographical or other considerations to be taken into account?
Yeah, sure. Look, we worked tirelessly in partnership with Software One and AudioCodes, and a number of those people I saw were signing onto the call to really use that information we collected through that detailed discovery and design workshops to try and define a classification-driven approach for the design of our Teams Voice environment, so that we could recognise the different voice topology requirements of one of those operational sites that you're making reference to, Mitch, and how that differs from like a corporate office in Perth or London or Singapore. And it was kind of through this classification-driven approach where we have a global layer, we have a regional layer, a hub site, local site, corporate site, and then operational site. And this has kind of enabled us for the first time since inception to have a standard and a simplified design across all of our operational sites and corporate offices, and will really form the backbone of a new voice standard, which I've been asked to write, because the risk is when you deliver a project like this, is that we obviously standardise, and given that background that I've just explained to everyone on the call, when you're constantly acquiring or divesting of businesses, very quickly we would drift away from that. So it's really important, as I said, that it was a classification-driven approach, and that we can standardise that, and that be a mandatory requirement should a future office be set up, or should we acquire or increase a level of investment, I want to say, in in some of our existing operational sites.
Thanks. And Natasha, can you explain to the audience why resiliency, redundancy,